This is Denise from Visual Imaging Solutions. Thank you for joining us. Today I'm going to be talking to you about video. We do video a lot. Sometimes we do videos for presentations, for meetings, events, even training videos. And it's always a question of how many cameras, how many angles do we want to capture. And it's very rare when we go with one camera. And today that's what we're going to talk about. Tonight we do have a presentation and we're going to take you along to show you what we do. But for now, we're going to go ahead and show you the gear that we plan on bringing with us.
Okay, well at events like the one we're doing tonight, we usually use more than one camera to get more than one angle on what's taking place. In this case, what's taking place is a speaker giving a presentation about local history. The number of attendees, I think, usually averages 40 to 50 or 60 attendees at these in terms of the audience size. We're back a little bit in the room. The speaker is toward the front. The light quality is a little bit low because there's usually a PowerPoint presentation on a screen. So we have to use cameras that have pretty decent low light performance. We shoot in 4K. And we always use, like I said, multiple camera angles for these. And historically, for this specific event, we've used 3 camera angles. But since the event organizer has upgraded their audio system in the last few events, we now are going to use a 4th camera angle because one of the cameras will be plugged directly into event audio via XLR cable so that we have good audio right from the event speaker. So this means it's a 4-camera event tonight. And the number 1 camera, so a camera for this event, is going to be the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. And it's a Super 35 sensor, and it has a dual gain ISO, I believe is what you call it, at base ISO of 800. Typically we shoot this at a base ISO of 800. Often we shoot this in Blackmagic RAW. Sometimes we shoot it in ProRes. I'm debating as to whether to use Blackmagic RAW or ProRes tonight. I'm leaning toward using ProRes for this tonight, and the reason has nothing to do with anything that we're doing to shoot with, but only because storage space on our editing media when we get back to the studio. Storage space can run out pretty quickly when you're shooting 4 cameras that are recording in 4K, and in particular when you're using the Blackmagic camera and shooting in Blackmagic RAW. It's not that Blackmagic RAW is a heavy file, because it's really pretty efficient for what it is, but we have to run that Blackmagic RAW through DaVinci Resolve before we bring it in to mix it in Final Cut Pro with the files from the other cameras that we're going to be using. So that results in some extra storage space as we do that process, and we probably will have to invest in another SSD at some point, but the current editing SSD, we have about 1.5 terabytes of space on that for editing this project, which is just about enough as long as we don't push the boundaries too hard. So I think we're going to be doing ProRes tonight on this camera when we're recording the session. And ProRes is just fine. It's actually a nice file format. It's a little bit more compressed if we use ProRes LT, but it still produces a nice looking file for mixing with the other cameras. So that's camera number 1. What we do know with this camera is that we have to have enough battery power to get through the entire hour to an hour and a half long event. And with the single battery setup in the camera as it is currently shown here, that battery will last about 20 to 25 minutes, and that's obviously not going to be enough. So people have various strategies for how they power these cameras for longer. We really don't have access to using a wall outlet because we don't want to string a cable across where a large number of audience members are going to be walking. And many of those audience members are getting a little older. They're interested in the history of the community that they live in. They've lived here many years in most cases, and like I said, they're getting a little older, so we don't want any trip hazards for those folks. So we can't use the wall plug-in. A lot of people will use a rig for the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera series, and they'll mount a V-mount or other external battery source to it, and that's fine and is a good strategy. But it makes the camera a little bit bigger than we like it to be. Makes it a little bit more of an elaborate setup. Of course, there's benefits to it as well. It makes it more of a clean setup if you've got a lot of accessories to attach to your camera. But what we chose to do instead was to use the Blackmagic battery grip, which allows us to run 3 of the Blackmagic batteries, which are Sony compatible NP series batteries. So there's 2 batteries in the grip and 1 in the camera body, and we've found that that's good for 2.5 to 3 hours, maybe even a little bit longer, of power on the Blackmagic camera. So that's been our solution. It's been working well for a number of years now, since we've had this camera going on, I guess, almost 3 years probably at this point, and good solution for power. So that's camera A. Okay, and the second camera that we shoot with at this event is the Canon 1DX Mark II, which I'm holding right here, and this is a real workhorse camera for us. We were just at another event, a photography-based event, where I shot 700 photos on this camera as a photography tool, but it works really well as a video camera as well. And so to use this at the event we're going to, this becomes the camera that has the tight shot on the talent, if you will, at the podium who's speaking. So we have a tight shot on the speaker with this camera, and to get that tight shot, we're using the Canon 70-200 f2.8L IS2 lens. And this does not have a log format that we can record in, which is a strange thing for Canon to have omitted from their top-of-the-line camera, when you could have gotten Canon log in the 5D from the same period that this camera was being manufactured. But you know, flagship camera, top-of-the-line camera from Canon, somehow didn't have Canon log. But there really hasn't been a problem, because the dynamic range is pretty good on this camera anyway, and under the controlled situation where we're shooting at this event, we don't really have a high dynamic range situation anyhow. We really actually have a lower light situation to shoot in, and the 1DX Mark II really does well under those low light conditions. So I think it turns out, when I'm looking at the metering there, that we're using an ISO of 1600 on this camera when we record the video, and we've done this with the 1DX Mark II many times at this event in this venue. And at ISO 1600, we have never had to use any noise reduction after the shoot back in post. So that tells you how clean the file is coming off this camera, that at ISO 1600 there's essentially no noise whatsoever in the file, and it looks great. So the 1DX Mark II will have the tight shot as the second camera on site at this event tonight. Okay, picking up to the third camera, camera number 3. Which is often the camera that Denise operates. I'm usually operating cameras 1 and 2 because they're right next to each other, locked down on tripods, although I do move camera 2 quite a bit, the 1DX quite a bit. But camera 3 Denise operates is the Canon 5D Mark IV. Again, an absolute workhorse of a camera for us. We can't recommend it highly enough. 30 megapixel sensor just does a beautiful job. It may be equal to, possibly even better than, the 1DX Mark II in low light, but at the very least it's pretty much the equal of the 1DX Mark II. So another great low light camera. Works really well in this situation at this event. Again, we've never had to use any noise reduction. What I have found is that if we shoot at f2.8 on both these cameras, on these lenses, you get a little more light transmission on the Sigma lens that I have mounted here, and we often can shoot at ISO 800 on the 5D Mark IV for some reason, with all other settings being exactly the same. Not really sure what to make of that. I think it comes down to light transmission through these lenses. In any case, it looks really good. It's a nice setup. The lens we're using on the 5D Mark IV is the Sigma 20mm f1.4 art lens. And what we're doing with this lens is we want to get a wider angle view of the event space, so that, you know, brings in the speaker, brings in the podium, and brings in some of the audience. And the 20mm art allows us to do that. The very fast aperture allows us to get maximize our low light capability. And it's just a really sharp lens. We've had really good performance from this lens and recommend it. We really enjoy having access to it in our collection of lenses, and it's really come in handy with a number of the commercial shoots that we do. So that's going to be camera number 3. Okay, and finally we have camera number 4. And camera number 4 used to be our A camera for these events years ago. It's the Canon XF300, and I'm showing you that right here on the other camera, the close-up camera, so you can kind of see what that looks like. This is a traditional professional series camcorder. It's a 3 CMOS chip camcorder, and it records in 1080p only. It records in a very high quality file format at 50 megabits per second on CF cards. It's getting a little bit older, and so the workflow is a little bit challenging with this camera. The only way for us to really get the footage off this camera is to plug it in by USB. USB 2.0 is what this camera has, into a computer directly, and to import the files directly into Final Cut Pro. Final Cut Pro we have set up from years ago with the plugin from Canon, the Canon XF plugin for Final Cut Pro, to allow us to ingest these files. We've found that if we don't have that plugin set up, or if we try to ingest these files any other way, that we really have trouble with that. So that's getting a little long in its history with us, but it still is working well. And I think to make sure that we can keep this camera in the rotation, we're going to have to maintain an older series computer so that we can always ingest these files from this camera, because we want to ingest these files from this camera. It's an extremely useful camera, and it really produces a pretty nice image quality that we can upscale to 4K, so it matches very nicely with the 4K native cameras that we're shooting, or the 6K camera in the case of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. Surprisingly enough, this XF camera from 2009, 2010 vintage works really well. The footage comes in, and once it's up-resed appropriately to 4K, it's just great. Now this is camera number 4 now for tonight, and the reason it's camera number 4 is we're going to lock this down on a tripod not far from where the sound is controlled for this event from the event organizer's sound system. And we're going to plug in a short XLR cable into the XLR port here, and an XLR1. We've got that set up to be an external source, line level, and we're going to take the audio feed right from the venue audio. And that's going to be our main audio then for syncing in post across all the cameras. And the camera angle that we're going to be recording this is going to be a variation on the camera angle that camera number 3 gets. And it's just going to be a little bit more audience, probably very little of the speaker who is presenting. So this is going to be focused on the audience for the audience reaction and for question and answer period afterwards, so that we can see who's asking the questions and participating in the discussion that always follows these events. So that is the camera setup and what we're going to be doing for audio. For built-in audio, or for scratch audio for the other cameras, we have a variety of external microphones that we'll be placing on those cameras, and they all work really well for getting venue audio or backup audio, if the case may be, when the situation really calls for some sort of backup audio if there's a catastrophe. The best backup audio that we usually like to see is on camera number 3. Camera number 3, the 5D Mark IV, is usually positioned in a place where it gets a really clean exposure to the monitor, the sound monitor that's used by the event venue. And so it's the Zoom M3 MicTrak. So you can see the M3 logo right there. And what this does is allow us to record the audio coming in from the shotgun microphone. It's got a decent pickup pattern, but it's 32-bit float, and we can hit the record button on that. Well, once we turn it on, we can hit record, and we're recording 32-bit float directly into the and we're recording 32-bit float audio directly into the SD card, as well as sending it to the camera. So, and in the worst case scenario, that allows us to edit that audio in such a way that we get good quality audio no matter what happens at the venue. So we always have some backup audio capability so that we can make sure we have a good recording, so people can enjoy the audio along with what we're recording for the presentation. And we certainly invite everyone, if you're seeing this, to come and check out Visual Imaging Solutions on YouTube, where you're obviously watching this right now, and check out some of the other videos. If you're interested in the history of the city of Appleton in northeast Wisconsin, that's what we're recording tonight. And we have recorded a number of very interesting videos that were presentations at this event over the last several years, and I think in the future there are going to be continuing interesting presentations. So all of them are based in Appleton, but some of them are of national consequence. And one that you might want to take a look at, I think Denise can probably put above my finger a link to it, is the history of Appleton manufacturing that we shot with the local restoration specialist for Appleton manufacturing equipment, Dale Dino. I think if you haven't seen that video and you're interested in the history of agriculture in the United States, this is a firm that was in the city of Appleton in the 19th century that had a nationwide, if not worldwide, impact. And you can see what Dale has found and restored. It's just one of the things in Appleton history that might be of interest to a much wider audience. So, well, thank you very much for watching this so far. We're going to cut here and take you over to on-site as we set up. Okay, well, right here we've got camera A almost set up, and we've got camera B almost set up, and over there, randomly set up a 5D over there.
I moved it because there's people over there.
Okay.
You know, you have to be careful.
So the camera C is over there set up, and way up front is camera D, so the fourth camera. So, and the fourth camera is plugged in and ready to go. It's just on sleep mode. So all we have to do is unsleep it and hit record, and it's ready to go. And so then you just need to go get the talent microphone with the DJI, right? DJI wireless mic set, because we still aren't 100% confident in room audio, venue audio, so just in case. Always good to have a just in case clean audio feed. So I know I talked in our introduction about having a backup audio source. We have a primary, a backup, and a tertiary, a third source. So
Well, there's nothing wrong with that.
we're going to get audio one way or another.
Yeah, could be that, or it could be.
Okay, I actually have it plugged into the microphone port this time, and not the headphones port. So that's it, and we can power on the camera and make sure it looks good. Not too bad. Always have more than at least one way to record your audio as well as your video, and I think that allows you to be safe and make sure you bring back a product for your customer, and that's what we tend to do. And so far so good. We've got quadruple backup for cameras, we've got multiple backup for audio, and hopefully we always come back from an event with workable files that we can turn around a product for the customer.